Welcome back, guys. So, that smug little rush that people get when you're proven right? That I told you so moment? Yeah, well, this is not one of those times. I hate being right about crap like this, because here we are wading through this entire crazy mess, and I don't want to say I told you so. But instead of pride, all I feel is absolute disgust. The left has been playing with matches, pretending that there's no fire. They refuse to admit that violence from their side isn't just a random fluke. It's become a full-blown trend. And when their leaders, their media lapdogs, and their activist base all act like the problem doesn't exist, surprise, surprise, it grows. You remember Tyler Robinson? I hope you would, because it's only been a couple of weeks. So I said that we would see copycats. And wouldn't you know it? Here they come. We've got young radicals treating this like it's some twisted blueprint. A shooting at a news station, another at a wedding where some lunatic shouts, "Free Palestine!" And now, because apparently the script is just writing itself, we've got a rooftop sniper taking aim at ICE officers. Motivation? Check. Ideology? Check. And yep, another proud graduate of Left-Wing Academy of Violence. This is what happens when one side shrugs and looks the other way. Once you uncork this kind of hate, you don't get to stuff it back in the bottle. Instead, it rolls downhill like an avalanche, and the rest of us are stuck bracing for the impact.
People are dead after a shooting at a Dallas ICE field office this morning. I spoke with Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons just moments ago. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
It appears to be a sniper from an elevated position. Initially 3 individuals were shot. We do have multiple fatalities. All ICE agents and officers at the location are accounted for right now. It's still an active scene. From what we know, the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dallas Police Department and the Texas Department of Public Safety have been great help to secure the scene. So it's still active right now in the sense that we're still trying to learn more why this happened, anyone else is involved, and just really securing the area and making sure our people are safe.
The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said in a statement that the shooter's motive is unknown. The director says it appears the suspect shot from a sniper.
So the headlines break, and just like clockwork, the leftist Twitter brigade fires up their keyboards. This must be MAGA's fault. They decided in record time that the shooter had to be some diehard conservative because, wait for it, he went after detainees instead of ICE agents. That's the big brain logic they ran with. Now let's apply about 10 seconds of common sense. Since when do America First conservatives make it their mission to attack ICE facilities? ICE is literally the agency that enforces border law. Shooting at them is basically the holy grail of the far-left activist playbook. Pretending this is a right-wing attack is like saying vegans are secretly raiding barbecue joints for the fun of it. It doesn't hold up. But hey, it was politically convenient, so the left went with it anyway. Why would they not, And then, shock of all shocks, the receipts start coming in. The evidence drops, and their narrative does what it always does. It crashes and burns.
Law enforcement, specifically the Dallas Police Department, for their quick and timely response. I can confirm at this time that the FBI is investigating this incident as an act of targeted violence. It is unfortunately just the most recent example we've seen of targeted violence, to include here in North Texas, where back on July 4th, we saw a coordinated attack carried out against an immigration detention center in Alvarado, Texas. What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature. Again, this is just the most recent example of this type of attack. This will be a whole of government response. There will be no resource not utilized to bring all those individuals who are responsible to bring them to justice and to hold them accountable.
And then we get the official word. Kash Patel puts it out there, even posts the photo. Casings on the ground, one of them literally engraved with anti-ICE. The timeline is clear. Just before 7 a.m. in Dallas, some lunatic opens fire on the ICE facility, kills one, several people injured, and then offs himself. The evidence isn't subtle. The motive isn't mysterious. It's branded right onto the brass. So what do we have here? Another radical marinated in left-wing activism, taking the slogans off Twitter and stamping them on bullets. It couldn't be more blatant. And yet, because gravity apparently works differently in newsrooms, the mainstream media's hot take is, how can we tie this to right-wing violence? It is absolutely absurd. You could hand them video of the guy waving a defund ICE banner, and they would still try to spin it into a Trump rally.
inspired? Are you worried about copycats?
Yes. I don't know if the rooftop trend is going to be a thing. I mean, it could just be coincidental that the best vantage point just happened to be elevated positions in this case. But, people emulating this kind of attack is certainly a concern. The irony with the writing, the first time we really saw that was Brenton Tarrant in the Christchurch shooting in a mosque in New Zealand. And he was a fierce, white supremacist and neo-Nazi, and wrote all over his weapon and his rounds very hateful information. So to see this coming from, potentially the other side of the political spectrum is a little strange because it is not something, if you are trying to, carry out some kind of message countering, more extreme right-wing stuff. I don't know why you would, use a tactic that a famous white supremacist who has been revered and copycatted over the years by other white supremacists, why you would do that. But it does appear that people are moving in that direction because they want people to know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
And this is the part that absolutely just pisses me off. Look how they handled this. Instead of zeroing in on the glaringly obvious signs, the engraved bullets, the target of choice, the straight line connection to Tyler Robinson, they just drag us on some history field trip back a decade. Suddenly, it's both sides' time dusting off one incident that they think they can hang on the right. Classic move. Distract, deflect, and deny. The whole thing is cowardice, plain and simple, because admitting what's right in front of them, which would be the left-wing radicalism is metastasizing into violence, would mean holding their own side accountable. And, God forbid that. So rather than connect dots between Democrat rhetoric and copycat violence that we're seeing right now, they'd rather invent a timeline that stretches reality past the breaking point. Never mind that the example they're dragging up was some unhinged racist acting on his own, not carrying water for conservative leadership. That detail doesn't matter. The narrative does. And just to add insult to injury, right before this latest attack, Gavin Newsom is yucking it up on late night TV, dropping sound bites that pour gasoline onto the fire. But sure, tell me again how it's both sides.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of masking. Also to require you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up fine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization, basically a terrorist organization, saying he's going after his enemies. You saw the tweet that Donald Trump sent out, Truth Social, basically telling Pam Bondi, I want these 3 people taken out. That's happening in the United States.
And right on cue, we get another round of overcooked, hyperventilating political theater. More of that rise up against tyranny shtick. Because apparently, if you slap the word authoritarian on your opponent, suddenly violence is patriotic. That's the poison they're mainstreaming. And let's not pretend it's harmless banter. Words matter. I actually used to say this, right? Leftist, huh? Words matter? Yeah. They set the stage. And that stage the left has been building is one where taking a shot at ICE or storming into a wedding screaming slogans isn't radical. It's resistance. That's the normalization happening right in front of us. And no, it's not just Gavin Newsom auditioning for the role of revolutionary in chief. This chorus stretches across the entire left. Activists, politicians, media talking heads, all preaching the same sermon, all acting shocked when someone takes them literally.
And now what DHS is trying to say, again, they're using public intimidation because they know that they cannot come for us all. They know that they cannot come for us all. And recently what they said is that DHS is allegedly looking into arresting members of Congress who were showing up for their legal and constitutional obligation to conduct oversight. If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, on Representative, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem. Because the people who are breaking the law are the people who are not abiding by it. And it is enshrined in the law that members of Congress who show up to ICE and CBP facilities are required to be granted access, legally required to be granted access. And they legally cannot be inhibited from accessing these facilities to conduct their constitutional obligation to investigate and conduct oversight. So if Kristi Noem wants to break the law, that's on her. But it sure as hell is not someone like Representative Robert Menendez that needs to be arrested, okay?
Okay, let's cut through this charade. It's not just Gavin Newsom tossing gasoline around. It's AOC. It's every blue check pundit. It's the TikTok revolutionaries who think hashtags are war paint. These are the same people who casually brand conservatives as fascists and call ICE the Gestapo, then act shocked when some lunatic decides to take rhetoric literally. Spare me your both sides fairy tale. This is not some abstract academic debate. We've now got a stack of left-wing terror attacks happening in real time, 4 in just 2 weeks. That's not resistance, that's an epidemic. And yet, the media and their Democrat buddies clutch their pearls and scream about Donald Trump's dangerous rhetoric while completely ignoring the fire that they've been stoking on their own side. Here's the truth. You can't spend 8 years shrieking about how words are violent and then shrug when your own words inspire actual violence. If you really cared about public safety, you'd call it what it is, left-wing domestic terrorism. But instead, we get excuses, spins, and phony outrage. So here it is, plain as day, stop normalizing violence, stop pretending your side's rhetoric doesn't have consequences, and for once in your life, try being consistent. Because right now the left is just dabbling in hypocrisy. They're fueling an epidemic of political violence. Anyway, that's where we are, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you share it. I will catch you guys later.